Ryne Sandberg is the greatest Cub in franchise history. And I'm going to tell you why. Brad Savage, Cubs Ivy, let's go Cubs! Hey, so one of the things I want to do in the Cubs Ivy is not only go over current updates and moments and games and game reviews, schedules, records, um, all the above. I want to go through some Cubs history, and today I want to talk about the greatest player, the greatest Cubs player in franchise history of all time, Ryne Sandberg. That's my opinion. There's a lot of great ones, but he, for me, is the number one. And I want to tell you a little bit why, and I want to tell you some of the connections I've had growing up watching Rhino. Um, if you're new to Cubs Ivy, or you're looking to support another Cubs fan, please feel free to like, subscribe, and throughout you're listening to the video, please make a comment. Tell me about your favorite Rhino moment, Cubs moment, and if you agree or disagree that he might be one of the greatest of all time. But for me, it was a lot of things, and I want to go through a couple. Like, one is his defensive excellence. He won 9 consecutive Gold Glove awards. That's from 1983 to 1991. And his actual fielding percentage, his career fielding percentage, was .989. As far as baseball is concerned, that's near perfect. That's near perfect. Kind of the reason why I always want to be a second baseman. This guy was like a rock for the Cubs, especially defensively. And offensive side too. He won 7 Silver Slugger awards. I believe he and Altuve are tied for the most by a second baseman. And one of the crazy things in for a second baseman, I realize there's been some great ones over the years in general for baseball, but he led the National League. I think 1990 he led the National League in home runs with 40, which is not a common feat for a second baseman, not only to a lead, but hit 40 home runs in a season. And so no wonder he was an idol of mine, right? In 5th grade, I remember that our teacher made us write a paper of who we want to spend a day with if we got to choose. Of course, I was a Cubs fan. I watched all the time. I chose Ryne Sandberg. And Rhino, I made sure I put that in the title of my paper because we were good friends, apparently. Rhino would pick me up from school. It was a perfect day. He'd pick me up from school. He'd drive me around in his red Ferrari. I don't know if Rhino had a red Ferrari, but he did in my paper. And we went to the field. We played catch. He pitched to me. He hit me ground balls. We went somewhere to eat. It was probably Chili's. That was a fancy place when I was a kid. And then he dropped me off at home and made it a perfect day in his red Ferrari. But I idolized him. So and no wonder. I mean, he was one of the most consistent and had one of the most long careers with the Cubs. He had a 15-year career with them, and from 1984 to 1993, he had 10 consecutive All-Star appearances. The main reason I watched the All-Star game during those years, Ryne Sandberg. And so, he was an absolute cornerstone of the Cubs for all those years, offensive and defensive. And, there's tons of moments. There's tons of moments you remember. I might remember. If you have one, please either share it in the comments, or maybe send a link in the comments to maybe a video of one of your favorite moments. But a lot of us remember, especially if you're a Cubs fan, it doesn't matter your age, but on June 23rd, 1984, he hit two game-tying home runs against the St. Louis Cardinals. One was a tie it up early, one was a tie it up later. And, that not only boosted him as a Cub and solidified his status as a Cub legend, but I think that made him a fan nationally. That was big news, a big rival, two huge home runs, early in his career as a Cub. So, I'll tell you one of my favorite Sandberg moments, and it wasn't even seeing him in person. I lived in Florida. I didn't get to travel up to Chicago very often. My grandpa grew up there. That's why I was a Cubs fan. But the reason why I was a Cubs fan and stayed a Cubs fan and was able to be obsessed with Ryne Sandberg was because we had WGN. There was no baseball in Florida, none at all. And so we got TBS for the Braves and WGN for the Cubs. So I watched as much Cubs as I possibly could. And one of my favorite moments personally, in person, was in, let's see, it was August 28th, 2005. The Cubs were playing the Marlins. Three of my buddies and I, three of them had never been to Wrigley Field. So we were in college. We went up there together. We got bleacher seats. That's the first time I've ever sat in the bleacher seats. It was fantastic. We were like in the first or second row of the bleachers, general admission. We got burnt to heck. We were all pink when the day was over. But to my surprise, I didn't do a lot of research, so I just wanted to go to a Cubs game. That was the day. That was like Ryne Sandberg Day. He had just been inducted to the Hall of Fame. They were retiring his number. He made a lap around the field, and if my arms were 10 feet long, I could have reached out and given him a high five because he made that walk around the field. I got some close-up pictures of him and I believe his wife walking around. That was pretty cool. We got to see Andre Dawson help raise the flag with number 23. Probably one of my favorite Ryne Sandberg moments, and that's just because of me personally. Because I got to see him in person, I got to hear his speech right after he got inducted. It kind of solidified him as one of the most beloved figures, basically, in franchise history. And his number was 23. I was 23 growing up. I wanted to be a second baseman so bad. Played all over the place in the field, but always wanted to be a second baseman. Fought people for number 23. That number was taken as I grew up, so I ended up being number 5, 2 plus 3, obviously. But, if you have a Sandberg moment, please do share. That's some of mine. He just was, I idolized him. I had his pictures on the wall. I had every card I could possibly get my hands on. But I think as far as him being the greatest of all time, it's easy. It's easy. He's such a long-standing player during his career, 15-year career with the Cubs. He's had so many big moments. He was all those Silver Slugger awards, all those Gold Glove awards. He was just the face of the franchise for so long, and is still an important figure with the franchise. He's still involved with it. But as far as impact goes, most important player. As far as results go, one of the best, and in my eyes, the greatest of all time. If you have an opinion, I'd love to hear it. Otherwise, I'll let you go. Go Cubs go, and we'll see you next time.